Pharrell is a cultural engine. You understand that you need to create culture. You don't have to rent it, or you don't have to just participate. Visibility doesn't mean influence. And I think that's the main mistake that everybody does.
You were a very important player in one of the most iconic bridging of two worlds and partnerships in the luxury industry so far, which is LV and Formula One.
Always try to find the way to show people that we are more fan of F1 than they are.
Thank you for doing that.
No,
I know you have a very strong opinion on A$AP Rocky as an ambassador.
I was shocked to hear was like, he's not Chanel enough, which I think first was offensive, definitely not true, and probably racist.
What does luxury mean to you today?
To do whatever you want.
The luxury industry is having an identity crisis. Everything that used to signal exclusivity has been copied, democratized, and saturated. And the response from most brands has been to shout louder with the same playbook. And that is simply not working today. What used to feel rare now feels mass. And people are looking not yet for another ad, but for a world to belong to. As part of this world building, Saint Laurent and LVMH have launched their own film production studios. And Gap, for example, has hired a chief entertainment officer. Fashiontainment is now a buzzword, and it's becoming the operating model. These lines of luxury and entertainment are starting to dissolve faster than ever, and what is yet to come is absolutely unpredictable. I'm Carlotta Rodman, your host and founder of Beyond Luxury, a strategic advisory and media platform guiding top leaders and brands on the future of luxury and beyond. My guest today has seen how it works from the inside. He has been in the rooms at Snapchat and LVMH. He is the person who helped connect high fashion to Formula One in a way that actually made sense. Now he's running strategy for one of the Hollywood royalty family portfolios. Today we're sitting down with Martin Mangez-Casey to talk about why luxury keeps losing its leaders, why Chanel's investing in libraries instead of boutiques, and why the future of this industry might look like a production studio more than a fashion house. Before we begin, if you're enjoying what we're building here, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. That is what allows us to keep opening up the conversations that usually stay behind closed doors. Whether you're a leader in this industry, aspiring to become one, or simply someone who wants to understand where it's all heading, this community is for you. Thank you. Martin, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm so excited to explore everything luxury meets sports, meets entertainment, meets brilliant storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the world is going right now. You know, everybody is moving towards this kind of cultural identity.
100%. The world is moving towards here, and your career has been like a masterclass in this topic. So I'm very excited to jump in on all of this with you. I think for the first, I really want to understand the mind and the strategies behind everything. What led you to really kind of target your career into this direction?
I think mostly curiosity. I think like I've been following, you know, a path that now makes sense in the world we live in, but I didn't have a plan, you know, specifically right off the bat. So I think it's mostly curiosity of new experiences. And I had like a passion for sports, a passion for luxury, a passion for beautiful houses. I had a passion for streetwear, for skateboarding.
I love
so yeah, I think that you know led me to try to see where I could have these passions into my everyday job. So that's why I have like now what feels very on point. Once again to where we're going, but like I think it was mostly curiosity and the will to discover and learn more things all the time.
That's brilliant. And you kind of were a very important player in one of the most iconic bridging of two worlds and partnerships in the luxury industry so far, which is LV and Formula One. That was one of the really like big statements a few years ago. How was that? How did you make that happen? And what did it look like behind the scenes?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the most interesting projects of my career because of the size, first, the scale of it, which is huge, coming into a sport that is booming right now. It was like definitely a super interesting experience and a real challenge. You know, I think we spent a lot of time with my team and I to work on how do we show up? How do you show up as a fashion brand into a sport of like innovation, speed, the smell of carbon and the fuel and everything. So how do you show up in these sports, not being taken as opportunistic and just here for business and just here for visibility? So I think we spend a lot of time trying to develop an identity that makes sense for us as a fashion brand, but also for the people that's going to be around the track and people who's going to see us on TV. And so I think we spend a lot of time on the identity to try to find something that bridges fashion and the level of quality and craft that we were trying to do things at LV. At the same time, matching what, people come and look for, which is, sports and entertainment. So that was the main, I would say the main focus. And as I said also to my team, always trying to find the way to show people that we are more fan of F1 than they are. So this feels genuine, this feels authentic. And so that was the big focus, but definitely super interesting. I had the chance to go around the world and see a lot of GP and get into the team and talking to the drivers. So definitely on a personal level, of course, something super exciting.
It has this story, and this partnership has a super personal touch in my life because I grew up waking up to the sounds of like, my dad was an avid F1 and still is. He watches every single race. And now he's a simulator Formula One racer. So, very, very intense. And my world was a luxury world. And so when these two worlds collided, it was such an incredible experience to like have this like two worlds collide. So thank you for doing that.
No, it's okay. I can relate to that because definitely my father was the same. And I think taking a nap on a Sunday afternoon in front of GP was a very common, activities for dads, I would say. But now it's interesting to see how much the sports has evolved and as well how much of the feminine audiences chime in as well. And I think thanks to the success we all know about Drive to Survive, that definitely changed everything for the sport, which is also something that we were trying to do at LV as well, to how can we move culture through long format. And I think that was a masterclass as well from F1 to do this, behind the scene type of content, to bring people in and different people and people that were not initially interested into F1, into the sport. And that's definitely is working, still working. I think now it's I don't know exactly the number, but like it's almost 1 billion in audiences for F1. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's insane. And truly, I think, this show really allowed people to not only learn the sport, learn the rigorousness and the dedication and the speed, the innovation, all of this precision that I think is also very true to luxury companies. And this is one of the reasons I'm guessing as well you chose this work.
No, definitely. But it's not automatic for people to think, oh, okay, I see the precision and the craft, in F1 too. People don't really have this, vision of the sports. It's more about passion. It's more about, emotions. I think that's where people get into F1 mostly for this. But we had to bridge this. We had to say, no. This is a sport of precision. This is a sport of craft. This is a sport of innovation, which is exactly what we are as a Maison as well. So we had also all this, developing content around this notion about, we belong somehow to the sport as well through the way we do our bags, our clothes, and our business as a whole.
But what was the hardest thing about making this partnership work?
I think it was really to make sure that the partner we're working with understand the sport as well. because once again, and I spent a lot of time to make sure that we are very precise, because I think if you show up in a sports and you show somehow you don't really know it or you make mistakes. I remember for the little story that there was one of the partner of F1 that wrote, that wanted to announce their new partnership with F1, and they say it's green light for us in F1 or something like this. But like there is no green light in F1. There is only red lights that shut down, and that's the start. So that's in a way shows that you don't know where you're getting in, and you don't speak to the fan, and you don't speak to the people who love F1. And so I think we spend a lot of time to make sure that, because, sometimes you're going to work with partners that's going to create your content or help you on communication, and they're not all fans or they're not really into that sports. So you need to spend a lot of time with them, also educating them. It was easy for me because I was a fan of F1.
Of course.
But I had a lot of people around me that had no clue about the sports. And I think if you don't show it in the right way, in a precise way of being exactly on point with the sports, then you miss a step.
And how long did it take?
The whole preparation, I think, would be around 1 year, I would say, that we spent 1 year preparing the arrival. So there is a lot of things to understand as well, on the broadcast side as well. How do we show up into broadcasting? So there is a lot of negotiation, of discussion with the right holders of F1. So yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time to prepare, a lot of back and forth on the identity, on communication as well internally. But then you have to validate this with the other side. So yeah, I would say it took us about a year to be ready, working hard on this.
This is truly, I think, one of the coolest partnerships in the space right now. So
I'm pretty proud of it, to see the logo on the track every Sunday. Make us proud, like the team and I, and I think everybody is cool now. We got a lot of reaction when we arrived, good one, bad ones always. A hater is gonna hate, but I think now people has come to the conclusion that we also belong in the sport as a brand. So it's great.
Love that. You've also been key in another big thing that happened at LV, which is kind of the transition of bringing on a new creative genius, which is Pharrell. And a lot of conversations around in the media were talking about the death of the traditional creative director and this resurgence of the creative genius that is not necessarily someone that is going to be sketching and ideating inside of an office, but that does many, many different things. What has your experience been with Pharrell while you were at LV and this whole kind of world behind that we don't really get to see from the outside?
No, I think when you say cultural genius, I would say even to be even more precise. I mean, Pharrell is a cultural engine. He's able to bring a vision that was super somehow, and even if there was of course some backlash at first, I think people understood what he brought to the Maison, and this idea of tailoring that was not we were more seen, especially with Virgil, seen as almost moving towards streetwear, and I think Virgil did a lot for the Maison at that time. But I think Pharrell brought this tailoring aspect of things, which was really important for us at a time that we needed to talk again about craft, about the way we do things. And I think he attached, in the last show that he did, it's crazy when you think about it, because he did a pants that, over time, when it gets used, then the monogram appears. Those type of things that people don't always know, don't always see on the runway. He's really attached to that, and I think he brought, for me, elevated the Maison towards what we are going as an industry today, which is more calm and more tailored and more calm luxury, I would say.
Can you tell us about one of your favorite moments while working with him?
The first time when I arrived, I asked to meet with him to try to understand. I did the same with Nicolas, and I tried to understand what was his vision, and I think it was very interesting for me. We ended up not talking much about his vision about fashion, but we ended up talking about where the world is going and his way of seeing culture and moving culture. And so for me, like gave me the boost that I needed to try to move things as well internally. So it was a great experience.
That's fascinating. I love this side of the cultural genius that you just reworded. And I think that this cultural side of not only surfing off the culture that is going on, but creating culture is really one of the top mandates for luxury brands.
Yeah.
How do you see today, now like zooming out, not LV only anymore, just in general, how do you see today brands actually creating culture and not doing these like 24-hour like pop-up or 48-hour kind of experience, or, just doing this one-shot thing? There's a couple of, and you've written about it extensively, Chanel, for example, with their library. There's different brands that are doing things that are actually helping push culture forward, which is really important. How do you see that, and what other brands and what are your thoughts on what's going on today in that space?
Yeah, I think the main thing for me is, and that Maison still trying to figure out, is that visibility doesn't mean influence. And why I say this is because I think we've seen a lot of Maison renting attention more than owning their own identity or trying to participate to creating culture. And that's why I talked about Pharrell as a cultural genius, because you understand that. You understand that you need to create culture. You don't have to rent it, or you don't have to just participate. And that's where there is a real shift happening. If you are able to start things that get people talking, and that is somehow becoming part of the culture, then you start to own your own identity. And that's why I think in terms of business, maybe not on short term, but on long term, will make a huge difference. And I think one of these, the best example probably is Hermès. In the way that they're always been true to their own identity by creating culture, like doing things their own way. That's relate to the way they do things as well as in terms of product and craft. So that's one good example. Another good example, I think, is Chanel. I think the way they always on point into entering culture or creating culture. Like I talked about the fact that in Shanghai they did like a bookstore, a library, not even a bookstore. They did a library. And I think this part also of, authenticity, generosity that a brand can have toward the people they want to address. I think it's one way to create culture that's super interesting. I think also the way they choose their ambassadors is super interesting. They have an interest for the Indian market, then boom, they're going to take like the most iconic Indian models and make them and put them on the runway. So I think they're always on point. They're always like ahead of time in the way I think they feel where the world is going better than anyone. And I think they're always super, super sharp on the way they are able to create culture today.
I agree, especially now with Matthew Blazy. There's like such a wow, in how they're doing things. I know you have a very strong opinion on A$AP Rocky as an ambassador. Can you talk a little bit about that side? I know I had so much backlash as well. And you had a very brilliant way to talk about your thoughts.
Yeah, I think like for me, I was shocked to hear, I think the thing that was coming back the most was like, he's not Chanel enough, which I think first was offensive, definitely not true, and probably racist. And I think this is the part of the fashion industry that I don't like, that I don't relate to, that I don't recognize myself in. I think ASAP Rocky is probably the most interesting and bold move that Chanel could do in terms of ambassadors. People would say, yeah, you know, it's too obvious, but like ASAP Rocky, and people usually don't know him. But if you try to understand, you know, who he is as an artist, you see he has so many layers that makes him so interesting. And I think Chanel understood this from him. And I think we're going to see a lot more of him, but in probably ways that we don't expect him to do. And the first one was of course the short movie with Gondry, super funny. And that's where you can use ASAP Rocky for those type of things as well. So he's super versatile. And I think it's super interesting for a brand like Chanel to have him on board. So I think he's not Chanel enough. He's just shocking and stupid.
I totally agree. I think he's I grew up, a lot of my childhood was in the US. So I grew up with ASAP Rocky, you know. So for me, I've kind of seen the years and now there's like this other, of course, the fact that he's married to Rihanna is another kind of
exactly. And he was the first rapper to go around Paris with like old Mercedes and dressed all in Saint Laurent. And so like we're talking about 15 years ago when all rappers were wearing like baggies and sneakers and big cars, but new cars. He was like super already.
He understood that.
Yeah,
he understood the space before everyone kind of jumped on that bandwagon. And and I think all of his ASAP crew is very interesting.
ASAP Mob,
as a like a group or collective or what they call it.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about storytelling with you. You talk about it extensively. There's this article that you wrote that was who the F taught A24 marketing, which I thought it was brilliant. And there's this whole everything about entertainment is coming into the fashion industry. It's coming into the luxury industry. There's 22 Montaigne. There's Saint Laurent production. There's so much to do. And Chanel has been doing a lot of long form for their advertisements around Bleu with Timothée Chalamet. And around other very interesting, the short that you just talked about with ASAP Rocky.
Yeah.
So there is this push onto this like retention in different ways of storytelling. Where do you see right now entertainment really going into that space and its capacity to actually be able to push the industry forward?
Yeah, I think entertainment is the way forward for many industries and specifically luxury. There is, and fashion as a whole. I think we see the rise of chief entertainment officer coming into, new brands. There is one at Gap. But I think this is just the beginning. I've been an evangelist of how much entertainment and long format and I did a few projects in this can move a brand in the right way. And I think we're going to see more and more of this. 22 Montaigne Entertainment that was created by my friend Jay Goodman as well with the LVMH group is super interesting because that means LVMH understands where communication or cultural brands need to move so I think we're going to see a lot more of that. We talked about Drive to Survive is one example. You can call it F1 a brand or not a brand. I think it's a brand. So somehow that's what they did. But there is many other example. I don't know if you saw yesterday, I saw somebody, I think it's my wife who sent me a video of Gap, which is a video clip. That's super cool. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Super modern with like a group of dancers. And, it's just to promote the clothing. So they all dress, with hoodie and all that stuff. But, once again, I think that's where brands needs to look at, stop interrupting people, telling you have the best, pants or the best, jacket, like, or just putting them on ambassadors and just put your name on it. Tell a story. I think it's a question of generosity. Be generous in the way you want to portray your brand to the people. And people will give you love and will buy your product if you do that. And I think that's what's a few brands like Chanel, you said, understood this. I think Saint Laurent understood this as well. Of course, Vaccarello is a big fan of cinema, of the cinema world, so that makes sense. But I think it's very interesting. Gucci did it with the Tiger as well. We can argue for a long time if that served the business or not. For me, yes, it does. Probably on the long term. So if you're on the short term spectrum of things, probably I'm not sure the Tiger will sell clothes but does it do good to Gucci? Yes, I think much better than the last runway, if you ask me.
Mm. And there's a very hard metric statement right now with teams and C-suite and leadership to actually put success metrics around these things that are being done today, where there's this obsession with, especially when luxury is having a hard time, there's an obsession with ROI,
luxury
with metrics
panicking.
now.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you want to actually build a brand long term, right? Yeah. How have you seen this in your experience?
I think one of the main problem of this industry right now is being too short term. I think if you talk about the luxury market, and what makes the luxury market is Maison, and Maison has been around for 200, sometimes 300 years, sometimes even less than that. But the way they are still here today is because they took the time to do things correctly. And the proof that they still exist 300 years after, it's probably something was done well 300 years ago, 200 years ago, and has been done well all along. And the collapse that we can see from some brands in the luxury industry, I think for me is directly linked to, this period of greed, of price hikes that we saw in the last 10 years, where, investment was more into opening more shops and probably less investing into quality. And I think this spirit of, easy money and a short-term vision is the result of what we see today. How can you ask someone in a leadership to create a long-term vision, to understand what is the speed of the Maison is usually moving, if you put him on the short leash in terms of bonuses as well? So if I'm a CEO of a company, what's the interest for me to say, no, we're going to invest here and not there because I want to build something on the long term, but then that will impact my bonus at the end of the year. And then probably if you're a public company, your investors are not going to be happy. That's why also I think where Chanel has a lot of freedom as well. They can take the time to do things because they're not public. And probably, I don't know, but hopefully they have also another system of bonuses internally that, I would love to see a Maison that say, no, we're going to reward you of your work. From 3 years from now, we see the result of something that's strong, that built identity, that's not renting attention, and that's make our business live forever again. And I think that's the result of what we're seeing is those short-term visions are really hurt a lot of Maison.
Yeah, we're kind of coming back to the source and the essence of really what luxury was before. And I think you keep coming back to taking the time, and you keep coming back to generosity, and that both of those really remind me of purpose. You're doing things with time and intention and generosity, and that's really one of the top things that people feel. It's something that you do feel. Sometimes maybe you can't put your finger on it, but you feel it from a brand when they really are building worlds and not building attention campaigns,
Yeah.
or bringing you to a short-lived kind of point of view that comes up sometimes. And there's this continuity and this peace in this uncertain world of a certainty of the world that you're living in within a brand.
Yeah.
Like at least one thing can be certain,
Yeah. No, it's true, and I think when you talk about building worlds, I think that's exactly it. I think most maisons have lost somehow the purpose of why they do what they do and why people will care about what they do. I think we had a discussion, you and I, earlier, and you talk about, is it a lack of quality or is it a lack of purpose? I think definitely it's a lack of purpose for me today. Usually you should walk around the company and ask anyone, so why do we do what we do? Can you tell me? And you should have some kind of the same answer. I think if you do this today, you won't have the same answer, and probably people will say, I don't know why I wake up every morning and I go to work and why I'm doing what I do. And I think once again, it's the result of what I just talked before, short-termism in the vision of the maison and the way they do what they do. I think it's time to go back, sit down, take the time to rethink about the purpose of the maison. You can take many examples, but like if I take the one that I know the best, which is Louis Vuitton, Louis Vuitton is all about travel, and now we know it's like travel is luxury, or luxury is traveling, definitely, we're talking about the economy of experience and that people are going to spend more money into an hotel room than probably a bag. And we see this everywhere. And, of course, LV is seeing it too. And so we see a lot of maisons moving toward more experience. But what's true to LV is that if you take the core values campaign and all that stuff, always in the last campaign for Christmas as well, it's about the travel, it's about the curiosity, it's about, and so I think LV didn't lose the purpose. So that's one example. I think other maisons, definitely, I'm not going to name but one that has a lot of trouble right now is probably also need to focus more about why does she exist and why does she do what she do.
Yeah, and I think it's also about bringing that why do we exist to today and what that means today,
exactly.
Right? I think for me, with many years at Chanel, one of the core things is the emancipation of a woman, is the freedom of a woman. And the amount of people that know that is very few.
Yeah.
And people that love the crossbody bags, love the chains on the bags, love the iconic, de 55 or the classic flat bag. They don't know that they're actually wearing female freedom.
Yeah.
And it's, like before the crossbody bag, you had to hold the bag in your hand. And so by default, women were, I guess, some sort of a handicap. They had one hand, and it was the inspiration of the military that Gabrielle Chanel saw and said, well, these men are crossing it. Why don't we cross our bags? And I know it when I wear it.
Yeah.
But the story of like making it in modern day, what does the emancipation of a woman mean? It's probably not a crossbody bag because we have that. But what does it mean today in this world? And I think actually Matthew Blazy is doing a great job at showing that in his on the runway and his collections. Of like what does freedom for a woman today mean? And there's a whole like very philosophical side behind all of these brands. And as you very well say, like for LV travel, like it's the trunk is what has pushed so much forward.
Yeah. And so you see the new core values campaign that's all about the product. It's fine as long as you tell a story that relates to what people know about the brand. And so, yes, we're going to go and shoot like bags, into crazy places around the world because this is the essence of the brand. And so I think as long as you stay true to your core belief, that travel is luxury or luxury is travel, if you want to simplify it. It's a bit more complex than that. I think you're going to do good, and your business is going to thrive. But if you forget this, where you're coming from and why you do what you do, then for me, you lost the brand.
And it also allows teams to be, I feel, more autonomous.
Yeah.
Because once we're all on the same page,
Totally.
people can have more autonomy and agency in what they're doing. But once there's a question about what the brand stands for, where the direction's going, then there's a lot more micromanagement that is very detrimental to leadership.
Totally.
Which is exactly where I want to go with you now. Leadership and what you've seen within luxury brands on how talent is being found and or not found, and how they're being, I guess, put in a metric of success or not success in potentially a detrimental way for brands to actually be able to really profit on these talents that they're hiring. Can you go through your thoughts on, especially C-suites, but it's a trickle-down culture, so whatever happens up there happens on the bottom.
Yeah. No, I always thought there was like a big gap between what companies and luxury maison wants and what they can afford. Not in terms of money, they always have the money to afford, but how much they can welcome and give the tools for the creative mind, whomever they want to hire, to make sure that they can be good at what they do. And we've seen, and I'm one of them, we've seen for a long time, luxury maison hiring creatives or strategists from the entertainment world or from the advertising world, in my case. And what I've seen by being inside is that they're super excited to have like a mind like you, because yes, you've been working with brands like Nike, like not always with luxury brands, which is also interesting for them, because you bring this this other culture of how do you work on a purpose and everything. But then usually there is no tools, or there is no mindset to say, okay, this person has been doing this for 20 years. He's doing it his way. So maybe we should, try to listen, or try to at least make sure that he has, the right tool to be successful. And I think there is a few maisons that are able to do this and integrate people the right way. And then you feel it, because usually they stay, and usually there is no big turnover. But like, I think there is a lack, and I've seen this also through many of my ex-colleagues from advertising, entering luxury maison and being not successful, because when you arrive, they say, okay, this is how things work. So either you fit in or you don't. And so I think maison has to realize that the people they want to, that's why I'm talking about the people they want to afford, the people they're really excited about, because they are, to bring in, they need to give as much space as possible for them to express themselves the best way possible. Because you're new in a maison, you don't have to respect processes and respect teams and all that stuff. Of course, you have also you as a new employee to understand how you do your job. And I wrote also a piece on the first 100 days, which is an important moment when you arrive in a new company, and you can make mistakes, of course, and you have to adapt to the culture of the company, of course. But at the same time, the company has to give you the tools to make sure that you're going to be successful in what they look after you. Yeah,
and give you turf to play on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Playground,
Yeah.
Maybe a defined playground. It's not a problem, but at least playground. But like right now, it's like, no, this is the way we work, and you have to adapt. But I think it has to be both ways. I think Maison has to adapt also because that's how they are able to follow the culture and be owning their own identity, is by being able to bring in the creative, the strategic, the crazy minds that you need stay awake, to stay aware of what's going on around you, and so that's a big part of what HR today needs to be better at, I think, in the luxury industry, is to be able to welcome those people in the right way.
So do you think it's fundamentally an HR problem?
I don't know if it's a cultural problem. I think it's definitely an HR problem. I think it's definitely a HR problem, because I think when I say it's both ways, I think you need to adapt to the culture of the Maison. But, the Maison needs to adapt into the way you work and the way you are sure that you can bring what they're paid you for. And so that's definitely just not complicated. It's not a question of changing the culture of the Maison. It's just a question of changing the tools to make sure that the people that you're hiring, are perfectly at ease to do what you ask them to do. So for me, it's definitely an HR problem.
There's also such a cross-industry pollination happening right now, which I'm thrilled about in the luxury space, which is great. Seeing big heads from automotive come into luxury, seeing also people from luxury go into tech, as we saw with Charlie Smith from Loewe. And this had happened before, like with Ian Rogers, for example, coming from Beats by Dre and Apple, then going into LV and now back out to tech. So I think there's a very interesting kind of conversation happening with luxury starting to open up more their minds on who can. Before it used to be all like mass market consumer goods, a lot of Procter and Gamble's, a lot of Unilevers, a lot of those kind of big guys would come into luxury and lead them, and still are leading them today, right? Almost all of the
all
big
coming
shots.
from consumer goods, like product oriented. Definitely, yeah, it's true.
And I think it's really interesting now that there's been this shift. However, what worries, I think, is what you're talking about, right? Because if you're bringing people from the entertainment world, now they're bringing a lot of people from Universal into these brands. So entertainment world, tech world, automotive, whatever, you name it. There needs to be a playground that is given. And it's an interesting phenomenon happening. And hopefully there will be something that is tweaked to actually make that happen, so that there isn't all this brilliant talent coming in and out. Like it's like a boomerang, like in and out, in and out.
Exactly. No, the turnover is crazy.
Yeah.
And it shows something as well. It shows that once again, being able to welcome a different mind, I would call them like this, a different way of thinking, different way of doing things. It's not guaranteed that it's going to work, and especially not if nothing is done to be working. So maybe there, you're right. Maybe there is a question also of, culture in the way that the Maison opens up to new way of thinking. But it's very complicated when you're, a multi-billion dollar business, and you're public, or even if you're not, you need to have results, and it's difficult to, that way. Imagine, like, if you open your door to your own house to someone, usually it's more difficult to say, like, oh, okay, if he wants to put his, shoes on the sofa, it's fine by me, because that's the way he does things. Right. It's going to be difficult for you because, it's not the way you do things.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
And so, sometimes you need to let the people put maybe their shoes on the sofa if you want to have some results.
Would you consider that you have some sort of like a survival playbook on what these CMOs, CEOs, whatever it is, that they can do to at least avoid the 100 days doom that usually happens?
But you play your career on, you play your new job on the first 100 days, that's for sure. It's not new, it's not me who invented it. It's like, it's pretty well known. And so there is some mistakes that you need to avoid. Mistake that I did as well, like everyone. And sometimes you learn the hard way, but it's fine. But it's also the same analogy that I used before, it's what you see in brands into culture is true also to the CMOs or the senior executive that are coming into a new job, which is like trying to get visible. Oh, I just got this job, I get big salary, so I need to prove that I'm worth it. And I think that's the main mistake that everybody does. And so the same analogy is like, don't mistake visibility with influence. And the first 100 days for you to build your influence. And it's not for you to prove that you're worth it, is to gain what I call a license to operate. Your first 100 days is just to have the permission to operate. Because everybody, especially in luxury, everybody's going to wait for you with a gun. You're always going to come in a team that there is somebody under you or next to you that wants your job or wants your scope or just don't like you. And so you need to be very careful the way you address things, not trying to change things when you arrive. Don't hire too quickly. Really take the time to understand, to see how the dynamics are, to understand politics as well. So it's a minefield. It's definitely a minefield in your first 100 days. But there is, I wrote a playbook about, my playbook. I guess there is 100 of good playbook, but my playbook about the mistake you can try to avoid when you arrive in a new job. And that's true for luxury, but that's true for any type of job in any type of industry.
Yeah, we'll have to go find that playbook to make sure we don't do any, to make sure we can keep those jobs. And I really like that point of license to operate. Yeah. That's, I can very much relate to everything you just said. And it's very important, especially in a big structure and organization that has all of these nuances to really have that license. And people don't really like it when you're trying to be too visible in general, in luxury and in other industries.
And especially when you have a CMO job, because I think your first reflex to say, okay, I need to fix the brand. I'm here because I need to fix the brand. But sometimes the problem is not the brand. Sometimes you're here because the CEO is under hit with his board. The margins are not good. Sometimes it's like it's usually mostly not marketing the problem or the brand the problem. Usually it's a business problem. Right. And so also never forget that's not because you arrive with some kind of expertise that the problem you need to fix has to do with your scope. Sometimes it's like something else. And that license to operate as well, you get it by understanding, where are the problems to fix, but like looking, not only in your scope or in your team, like try to expand as much your vision as possible, try to meet as much people. That's what I did when I started AVI. I asked 100 people to meet because I wanted to understand what was the business about. And the more you show as well that you understand the business and how things works, then that's going to help you as well to have like some kind of influence within your own team and within your own scope, because you know what you're talking about. If you arrive and after 100 days you don't know what you're talking about when you talk about collections or whatever cruel words that you can find into luxury, well, then you're doomed. Right, dead meat. Yeah.
So you've been within luxury Maisons, and now you've kind of pivoted out, and you're working in very cool strategic projects around what we call Hollywood royalty families. How has that shift been for you? And also, how does strategy, when you're working with family capital versus, public, massive company money, how does that change in your way to create stories, to create strategy around brands, and to really be able to make them boom in today's society?
Yeah, it's definitely super interesting, very different. When I talked about the fact that being accepted or being who you are within a big maison or a big company is more difficult. Here you can be whomever you want to be, you know, and people value really your judgment and your expertise. And I was really scared, you know, leaving Vuitton that, you know, people will be listening to what I say because I don't have this big name or this big title behind me. Right. And in fact, yes, like people listen even more to you, I would say, because, you know, yeah, they pay you for your judgment and they want nothing else. So you don't have to battle with politics. You don't have to battle with your team. You don't have to battle with HR, you know, just focus on your work. So this is really different for me and it's super interesting. The variety of the subject as well, because usually families has like different type of businesses. And this bringing me back to my advertising years, where I would be working in the morning on McDonald's, in the afternoon on Hennessy, and, you know, and so you have to do the splits. Contrast. Yeah, you have to do the splits and put your brain in other mode in the afternoon compared to the morning. And so that I have the same type of experience right now with the family offices. So that's super interesting. But the dynamic is very different because it's way more emotional. You know, it's usually family members in the meetings as well. So sometimes you can see how a family operates, and we all have families, and we don't. It's not really different, you know, right. of a real family, even if when you talk to business. So the dynamic is super interesting, a bit complex. It's politics, but in another way. The variety of the subjects is super interesting, and also the speed. You know, definitely they don't have time for, you know, a lot because that's their own money, and that's the big difference. So they want to move fast. My client told me the other day, Martin, I want to move at the speed of light on this. So it's, you know, the relationship you have also with them is more direct, definitely more direct. They say those things they want to say, the way they feel it. So I think it's more straight to the point, but at the same time it's super interesting because then it's all about efficiency, and it's all about speed, and it's all about getting the right stuff at the right time as soon as possible.
I think that was one of my greatest changes that I felt when I left a Maison as well, which was speed, and it was like this feeling of everything that you put actually goes. Yeah. And I think that this is, of course, it's dynamics of big companies, but there is the luxury time that impedes a lot of, and the verification of many different people, and everyone feeling like they need to have a say on whatever is being given to them, really delays processes and really delays the speed of how things are done. So it's like a super huge contrast, and it's like almost like you're flying at one point, and other times it's also like sometimes it gets like a little bit like fear of the speed. You're like, whoa, it's going so quick. But there's like it's a really fun.
At some point, that's why I told me, I said, look, you know, building a brand platform for this brand takes time.
Right.
And then I was like, maybe it shouldn't take time, you know, maybe it shouldn't take 3 months.
Have they indoctrinated me?
You have this idea that, you know, you need a month and a half or 2 months to build a brand platform. But no, you can shrink it if you're alone, and if you move fast, and if you get the right information from the founders and the family, then things can go super fast. I think also what's very different today for me is like I don't spend my full day into meetings, which, you know, I remember, you know, I had to set up in my calendar fake meetings just to have the time to work. You know, and do the actual work that my job required, because, like, you know, there is way too many meetings, and as you said, too many people who wants to get involved. As soon as you launch a project, you know, you have to bring by politics everyone in, so nobody's, you know, pissed that you didn't ask them to be in. If you forget someone, you're gonna be in trouble, and then there are gonna be around the table people who wants to kill your project. There are gonna be people who wants to your project, And so all this is gone.
Mitigation,
All this is gone. So you're way more efficient. And so, yes, I think you can move much faster.
Brilliant. I want to go through some questions that I ask all my guests now.
Okay.
The first one is the word luxury.
Yeah.
It's kind of lost its meaning, and it's been diluted by the fact that we just name everything luxury. What does luxury mean to you today?
To do whatever you want, or to be whatever you want to be. So I don't see luxury as specifically an industry for me, or specifically, you can say, well, time, experience, all this is very true, but it's very generic. I think luxury has so many different variables, and so for me, the real luxury is, and that's also what changed for me. So as soon as I had left this industry, I started being able to talk, and this for me is a true luxury, to be able to say what I want to say, and not being said not to. So for me, true luxury is being able to be myself.
Yeah, I can relate. That's why I left.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
write my book.
Exactly.
And it's understandable as well why you can't say what you want to say, because if everyone does that, then the brand can't control the. In the end, we're all indirect voices of the brand, right? But it's important, and it is my luxury as well.
And if you want to bring back to more concrete stuff into the luxury industry, I think for me it's service. It will always be. More than the quality of the product, more than the product itself, more than the craft, which is like, I think, something inherent and visceral to the Maison, of course. I think I had an experience at Keith the other day, and I usually going there quite often because I really like what they do, and I think also this is a version of me of luxury, because I can find Saint Laurent jacket as much as Louis Vuitton bag, but I can sew ASICS sneakers and the raw shirts, which is the way most of the people are living. Like full look usually is not something you wear, and I think they have understood somehow what is luxury, even if it's considered a streetwear brand. I think they have understood. So beautiful experience, beautiful settings, beautiful buildings, amazing service. You have the same service that if you go at Prada, they're going to bring you water if you need water, or they're going to propose you water, and they're going to welcome you at the entrance of the shop. They're going to walk you out of the shop. And so for a streetwear brand, and I had the same kind of experience as well at Aimé Leon Dore in New York, I think they understood what is luxury without being luxury brands. And so for me, and what really makes the difference for me is the service I get when I get into this place. It's the experience itself. It's not much about the product, because I think most people understood that probably you're not paying for the exact amount that was spent to create this bag, and that's okay. But then you have to fill the gap in between, how much it costs to create and craft this bag, and how much you're going to pay. And if there is nothing in between, and I think there is a lot of Maison got lost there. If there is nothing in between, then you lose your customers and audiences as well.
Absolutely. Looking ahead in 2030, where do you see the industry evolving to?
I don't know. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a trade down. I don't know if you can say this in English. I think it's gonna be. I mean, where it should go, it's more to authenticity and generosity. That's the way you're gonna make people care about your brand, no matter what happened before, because there was kind of a breakup between the customers and the Maison. Like there was a lot of backlash on everything they do. You can see there is a lot of hate. If you go on Instagram and you look at every runway, every luxury advertising, there is a lot of hate. And I think there is kind of a breakup between consumers and the luxury. And I think to gain back this amazing relationship between the luxury industry and and their consumers is by being authentic and generous. And that goes through, for me, entertainment. That going through the fact that you can offer something to your consumers that you're not expecting something in return, but you're building the brand on the long term, and then people will definitely come back to you.
Brilliant. What misconception do you think people have of this industry?
Right now,
Yeah.
I pay too much for what I get.
3 words that describe the industry.
Right now, greed, speed, and lack of service. Sorry, I cheated a bit. It's not 3 words.
It's fine.
It's fine.
And finally, if there was one skill or talent someone needed to have to go get into this industry, what would it be?
I think it's curiosity. I think it's true to all industry, but I think curiosity. I think if you're always willing to learn, listen, get into it, I think you'll always be successful if you're curious.
I 100% agree. And curiosity really is the one thing that will drive us all forward in every aspect in life.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Martin, for sharing all of this behind the scenes of
My pleasure.
This industry. It's not every day that we get to speak to someone that has done such incredible things like you. And
thank you so much.
And willing to open up so much to us. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
To everyone listening, if this conversation gave you something to think about, please follow and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Your support means the world, and it allows us to keep doing what we do and bring you incredible guests to this podcast. And if you want to go deeper into a written analysis and insights on what's going on in the industry and its implications for the future, subscribe to our Substack, where we go beyond the surface every single week. A lot of you ask how to find us and how to work with us. Everything is in our link tree on the show notes and our website, beyondluxury.group. If you're interested in strategic advisory, speaking engagements, or anything else, please reach out. See you next time.